Welcome back, Focus Learners, to another explainer. Today, we're going to be unpacking a seriously profound yet highly relatable life observation that might just flip the way you view your daily decisions. We're looking at a concept called the black coffee theory. It's this incredibly compelling mental framework drawn from a completely casual, everyday conversation. You know, one of those passing moments that ends up holding a massive mirror up to the things we tolerate in our own lives. So get comfortable, settle in, and let's get ready to stop sweetening the bitter truth.
Okay, let's dive into this. The entire philosophy we're talking about today stems from a single, simple interaction. The source describes this moment with a friend who just pointed at her coffee and bluntly stated her order: black, no milk, no sugar. Now, at first glance, sure, that's just a beverage preference, right? But the massive realization here was that this friend wasn't actually talking about coffee anymore. She was talking about life. It's one of those stark, simple quotes that immediately sparks a whole new way of thinking. I mean, it literally lives rent-free in our heads now. So how exactly does a casual observation about a morning coffee order translate into this powerful mental framework? Let's take a look.
Section 1. The Black Coffee Theory. Unpacking the Metaphor.
All right, so here's the formal definition of what the source calls the black coffee rule. It is the conscious decision to stop adding sugar or milk to make fundamentally bitter things in life more palatable. The source explicitly points out a rather harsh reality here, and honestly, it hits close to home. Most of us spend our entire lives sweetening things that simply do not deserve it. Just think about that for a second. We take situations that are inherently bitter, and instead of just rejecting them outright, we pour in metaphorical sugar and milk just so we can force ourselves to swallow them. This rule, at its core, is all about intentionality. It's about catching yourself in those moments when you're actively trying to mask a bad taste instead of just demanding a better cup to begin with.
Section 2. Stop adding sugar, masking the bitterness.
Now, this brilliantly illustrates what happens when we break that black coffee rule. Think about the bitter situation. This is your baseline reality. It's the intolerable thing you are actually dealing with day in and day out. Now compare that to the added sugar. And obviously we're not talking about literal cubes here, we're talking about the comforting lies, the rationalizations, and the excuses we tell ourselves. Things like, oh, you know, it's going to get better soon, or it's just a phase. The source highlights that while this sugar might make the situation temporarily drinkable, it doesn't change the underlying fact. The brew is still bad. It is still fundamentally a bitter cup. We are literally just masking reality to avoid the discomfort of actually making a change.
Section 3. The real-life brew, where we make excuses.
So let's ground this. The source outlines 3 very specific, highly relatable areas where we falsely sweeten the deal to mask an underlying bad taste. First up, bad relationships. What do? We add sugar. We tell ourselves, well, it's not that bad, or they mean well. Second, the wrong job. Again, pouring in the sugar. We tell ourselves that the job is eventually going to get better, despite literally all evidence pointing to the contrary. And third, draining people. I mean, we've all been there, right? Making excuses to keep pouring milk into a friendship or dynamic that only takes from us. We justify their behavior and we just keep tolerating them. In all 3 of these major life arenas, we're choosing to drink a fundamentally bad brew simply because we've poured enough excuses into it to choke it down.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the specific language we use to facilitate this whole self-deception. We rely on these sugar-coated labels. We call friendships complicated, or we call toxic work environments challenging. And by changing the label, we basically excuse ourselves from taking any real action. But the real truth, the unvarnished truth, is that we should be calling those complicated friendships out for what they actually are: draining. They are draining situations. We really need to stop calling things challenging when we actually just need to admit that they are flat out wrong. The vocabulary we use, that is the sugar.
Section 4. How successful people drink, the blueprint of success.
Okay, so how do we fix this? The source breaks down the habits of successful people into a very clear, highly actionable methodology. Notice the key difference. They absolutely do not add sugar to mask reality. Step 1. They taste things exactly as they are. No milk, no sugar, no comforting lies. Step 2. They determine if the situation is inherently bitter or bad. They just evaluate the raw, unvarnished truth without trying to soften the blow for themselves. And step 3. If it is bitter or bad, they stop drinking it immediately. Period. They do not spend years of their lives trying to make a terrible situation slightly more palatable. They simply reject the bad cup. This is brilliant because it turns a pretty philosophical piece of advice into a very clear practical procedure. If it tastes bad, you put it down.
Section 5. Taste the real truth. Walking away.
The absolute core of this theory really boils down to this one incredible realization. The right things don't need sugar and milk. They are already good enough for you to drink just the way they are. I love this. You are totally allowed to stop adding sugar to sweeten the deal. You are allowed to taste the real truth. Now, I know this is a bit of tough love from our source, but it's incredibly freeing when you really think about it. If you have to constantly exhaust yourself making up excuses for a job, a relationship, or a friend, it's just not the right fit. The right things are fundamentally good on their own. You have full permission to leave your cup right there on the table and walk away.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative question directly inspired by our source material today. I want you to take a hard look at your life right now. Are you sweetening a bitter deal? Or are you finally ready to leave your cup and walk away? The source closes with this hypnotic, repetitive call to action that I want to echo to you right here, right now. Think. Think a little more. Think. Stop tolerating the intolerable. Stop making excuses for things that drain your energy, and start demanding the unvarnished truth in your life. Love always. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. It's been a great one, and I will see you next time.